five-star restaurant in the heart of the city buzzed with the quiet murmur of business deals, laughter of the wealthy, and the clinking of crystal glasses. Among the tuxedo-clad servers weaving gracefully between tables was Darius, a young, black waiter who carried himself with quiet dignity despite the long shifts and little pay. Most guests barely noticed him beyond the plates he carried. But that evening, something unusual unfolded. At a corner table, a foreign businessman struggled to communicate, speaking in sharp German to the manager, who only looked confused and irritated. Other staff whispered and chuckled, dismissing the man as difficult. But then, to everyone's surprise, Darius stepped forward. His deep voice slipped effortlessly into flawless German, calm and respectful, easing the businessman's frustration instantly. The room went silent. Guests turned in shock as the waiter who had been invisible moments ago revealed a side no one expected. The businessman's eyes lit up with relief, his tense shoulders relaxing as Darius translated the menu, explained the dishes, and even joked lightly in German, earning genuine laughter. The man clasped Darius's shoulder warmly, thanking him over and over, while the manager stood frozen, embarrassed at his earlier dismissiveness. Patrons began whispering, impressed. "Did you hear him? Perfect German," one said. "Where did a waiter learn that?" another asked. Darius bowed slightly, excused himself, and returned to his duties as if nothing extraordinary had happened. But in one corner booth, a man had been watching closely. He was tall, distinguished, dressed in a simple suit that belied his immense wealth. He was a billionaire, known for his sharp eye for talent in the most unexpected places. And what he had just witnessed stirred something deep inside him. The billionaire, Mr. Whitmore, had built empires not just on money, but on people, on spotting brilliance in places others overlooked. As he watched Darius gracefully return to pouring wine and clearing plates, his mind replayed the scene. This wasn't just language skill. This was composure under pressure, intelligence hidden beneath a waiter's uniform. Mr. Whitmore asked discreetly for his check, but instead of signing it as usual, he pulled out something from his briefcase, a crisp envelope. Inside was a first-class plane ticket and a handwritten note. He sealed it carefully, slipping it under his plate. Then, with a quiet smile, he rose, nodding once toward Darius before leaving the restaurant. The staff gossiped instantly. Who was that man? He didn't even wait for change. But none of them saw what he had left behind. When Darius approached to clear the table, his eyes fell on the envelope. Curious, he opened it cautiously, expecting perhaps a generous tip. Instead, his heart nearly stopped. A ticket to Berlin, first class, gleamed inside. With trembling fingers, he unfolded the note. The handwriting was elegant, deliberate. Your gift should not be wasted serving tables. Meet me in Berlin. Opportunity awaits those who dare. The signature was simple. E. Whitmore. Darius's knees nearly gave out. He had dreamed of studying languages abroad, of becoming a translator or diplomat, but life's hardships had chained him to this restaurant, paycheck to paycheck. Could this be real? Why would a billionaire notice him? That night, Darius barely slept. Doubt gnawed at him. What if it was a cruel joke? What if he quit his job, boarded the flight, and found nothing waiting? Yet the note burned in his pocket like destiny calling. Finally, he decided. Sometimes life offers only one chance, and he would not let fear steal it. 2 weeks later, after saving what little money he had for expenses, Darius stood at the airport, staring at the boarding pass again and again. When he stepped onto the plane and sank into the plush leather seat, passengers glanced at him curiously, some assuming he was an athlete or celebrity. He smiled quietly, knowing he was neither. He was just a waiter with a dream and a mysterious ticket. When the plane touched down in Berlin, Darius's heart pounded. He followed the directions on the note to a towering glass skyscraper in the heart of the city. At the top floor, he was greeted by none other than Mr. Whitmore himself. "I knew you'd come," the billionaire said warmly. He explained how he sought out hidden talent, believing that brilliance was everywhere, though society often ignored it. "You spoke German with the ease of a native. That is rare, but what struck me more was your confidence, your grace under pressure. That is leadership. Darius listened in awe as Whitmore offered him a position. Not as a waiter, but as a liaison in his international company, traveling the world, using his languages to bridge cultures. Tears stung Darius's eyes. He confessed that he spoke not only German but also French and Spanish, having taught himself from library books and online lessons after long shifts at the restaurant. Whitmore smiled knowingly. That hunger to learn, that is what makes you valuable. The billionaire didn't just offer him a job. He promised mentorship, training, and the resources to finally unlock the life Darius had dreamed of. It was overwhelming. For years, he had been invisible, overlooked, mocked for daring to believe he was meant for more. Now, someone powerful not only saw him, but believed in him. Within months, Darius was traveling from Paris to Tokyo, representing Whitmore's company in negotiations. His fluency and empathy turned business deals into friendships. His humility, disarming even the most arrogant executives. People who once ignored him now leaned on his words. At night, when he returned to his luxury apartment, he often thought back to the restaurant, to the sneers, to the disbelief. He realized his story wasn't just about luck. It was about preparation meeting opportunity. If he had never studied, in the shadows, he could never have seized Whitmore's gift. Back home, the restaurant buzzed with rumors. "Did you hear what happened to Darius?" Co-workers whispered. "He's in Europe now, working for a billionaire." Some scoffed, refusing to believe it. Others felt shame, recalling how they had underestimated him. But when a glossy magazine published a photo of Darius shaking hands with world leaders, the truth could no longer be denied. The waiter they once ignored was now a rising star in global business, all because one night he dared to speak up. Years later, at a gala honoring young leaders, Darius stood at the podium, looking out at the glittering crowd. Cameras flashed, reporters scribbled, but he thought only of one thing, that rainy night when a frustrated German guest changed his life. "Never hide your gifts," he told the audience. "The world may overlook you, but your moment will come. And when it does, speak with courage." As the applause thundered, Darius caught sight of Whitmore in the crowd, smiling proudly. The note and the ticket had been the beginning, but it was Darius's own determination that carried him to greatness. And in that moment, he vowed to someday do the same for another overlooked soul, because he knew the power of being seen. Darius's career soared, but unlike many who found sudden success, he never forgot where he came from. At every meeting, he carried the memory of his restaurant days, the ignored glances, the whispered mockery, the long hours on his feet. It kept him humble. But it also made him determined to spot potential in others the way Whitmore had spotted him. When he visited cities for business, he lingered in small cafes, libraries, and schools, searching for sparks of hidden brilliance. Sometimes it was a janitor solving a complex puzzle in a notebook, or a clerk teaching himself coding on an old laptop. To others they were invisible, but to Darius they were himself, 10 years earlier. One afternoon in Paris, he dined at a modest restaurant. A young immigrant busboy rushed about, ignored by guests, but Darius noticed him quietly practicing Italian phrases under his breath while clearing tables. Curious, Darius asked in Italian, "Do you speak?" The boy's eyes lit up as he replied fluently, explaining he studied languages at night with borrowed books. Darius smiled, recognizing the hunger instantly. He slipped the boy his business card, writing a note just as Whitmore once had. "Don't waste this gift. Call me." The boy clutched it as if it were treasure. Darius walked away, heart swelling. He had become the giver of chances. Meanwhile, his bond with Whitmore grew deeper. The billionaire became more like a father, advising him on leadership, philanthropy, and responsibility. "Success is not yours alone," Whitmore often reminded him. "It belongs to everyone you lift along the way." When Whitmore eventually retired, he named Darius as one of his successors, entrusting him with vast projects across continents. It was surreal. Once he had cleaned tables, now he was shaping the future of international ventures. Yet through all the power, Darius never stopped being the young man who had once asked only for respect. The media adored his story. Headlines read, "From waiter to world leader," and "The billionaire who spoke up." Schools invited him to speak, and young people listened with rapt attention as he told them about the night he dared to use his voice. "Your skills may not be seen now," he told them, "but don't stop learning. Don't stop preparing, because opportunity never knocks on a door that's locked from the inside." The words inspired thousands, and letters poured in from across the world, thanking him for giving them hope. Back in his home city, Darius decided to return to the restaurant where it all began. The place had changed, new owners, new decor, but some of the old staff remained. They stared in disbelief as he walked in wearing a tailored suit, cameras flashing behind him. The same manager who once doubted him now stumbled over his words. "Mr. Darius, I never imagined." But Darius interrupted gently. "Neither did I. But sometimes all it takes is one moment, one choice, to change everything." He left, a generous donation to support the staff's education, ensuring no one there would be trapped in invisibility again. The German businessman whom Darius had helped years ago later reached out, inviting him to dinner. Over fine wine, he confessed, "That night you saved more than my meal. You reminded me of humanity in business. I never forgot your kindness." They laughed together, two men bound by a single moment that had rippled into destiny. Darius realized that life is not measured only by success, but by the lives you quietly touch, often without knowing it. As years passed, Darius built a foundation dedicated to empowering overlooked talent. Scholarships, training programs, and mentorship opportunities bloomed under his leadership. The foundation's motto was simple but powerful: "See the unseen." He traveled tirelessly, shaking hands with street musicians, speaking to bus drivers, encouraging young dreamers. Everywhere, people began to whisper his name, not just as a businessman, but as a symbol of possibility. At an international summit, he shared his philosophy: greatness does not wear a uniform, it does not carry a title. Sometimes greatness serves your food, or cleans your floor, or carries your bags. The question is, will you see it when it's in front of you? The audience rose in thunderous applause, and the speech was replayed globally, becoming a manifesto for recognizing hidden potential. When Whitmore passed away peacefully, the world mourned a visionary. But at his funeral, Darius delivered the eulogy, his voice steady though tears streamed down his face. "He gave me a ticket, a note, and a chance. That chance changed my life. I vow to spend the rest of my life giving others the same." His words echoed like a promise, and from that day on, people no longer called him just a protege. They called him a legacy carrier. Years later, Darius himself became a legend, his story told in classrooms, documentaries, and biographies. Yet, when asked what moment defined him, he always smiled and said, "It wasn't the boardrooms, or the stages, or the cameras. It was the night I dared to speak German to a man no one else would help. That was the moment the world changed." And in that truth lay the timeless lesson, that kindness, preparation, and courage, even in the smallest acts, can open doors to destinies far greater than we can ever imagine. Darius's career soared,